bitch. Yes, I know. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to a special presentation of Anime Club After Dark. I'm your host, Sho, and joining me tonight, we have Alex Senpai.
Swear to God, if you keep burping, I'm gonna strangle you.
Oh, sorry.
Oh my
I just had
God.
to let it out. Sorry. So, as Taylor Swift said it best, 22 is the episode that we are on for Vinland Saga.
You should really consider harming yourself.
That is quite insensitive to people suffering from self-mutilation. And
like Thorfinn.
Okay, just ignore what Alex says. But in this episode, ACAD recalls how he kills his father, which we will get to, because I have a lot of things to say about that. But
it's like a fucking 20-minute monologue, and then like 5 minutes is just the fucking fight.
Okay, yes. So this does begin on a fight, quote unquote, between Thorfinn and ACAD. And before the fight even starts, we see ACAD is like literally blacked out from the show. Like his whole character design is completely black, and I am loving it. I
falling
love
to the dark
the
side.
lighting. Oh my god. But yeah, it's very intimidating. Love the effects that they did on him for this episode, because it actually lasts throughout the entire episode. Like he's just like, once you go black, you never go back, honey. And he went black.
Ain't that the truth? I mean, what?
Anyways, I really like that design choice. And before the duel even begins, we see that Thorfinn is sweating, which, I mean, we already know he's gonna lose.
Oh God, what have I gotten myself into? Oh fuck!
He can't even, like, before the duel even starts, he's fucking scared out of his mind. So, Thorfinn.
I mean, you caught the commentary that Thorkel and Canute were giving each other before the fight started. It's like Thorkel was begging Canute, like, let's bet on this fight. Let's bet, and he's like, fuck no.
It's like Thorkel is the funny man and Canute is a straight man. And they're
pretty
like a
much.
Duo. It was
except Canute doesn't look very much like a
banter.
straight man. I mean, what?
More like a straight woman. Am I right? Yes. Okay, no. I laughed really hard when Thorkel said that Canute must be a woman because he didn't care about ranking the three of them, of which was the stronger person. I don't know. That's just so sexist. I found that funny.
Like, you've heard of that, so Raven, like, that's so Thorkel.
Lol. I would watch that spin-off.
Fucking sitcom just sitting around Thorkel. I'd watch that too.
So Thorkel, that's the accent we can throw. I don't know. Please sign me Interscope Studios. I am just budding talent waiting to be discovered. But back to the actual episode where the duel begins and ACAD wrecks Thorfinn like a fucking, oh my god, like he literally punched the baby 10 times. Like,
kick the baby.
Child Protection Services, where are you? He was just like holding Thorfinn by his hair as he punches his face.
I also love the fact that
like,
this fight started with ACAD throwing his sword away. He's like, bitch, you can come at me with whatever you got. I'm gonna stop you. And he's like fucking kneeing him in the fucking chest, throwing him down on the ground and laying into him. Like, damn, son.
Yeah, it was pretty sad. But I mean, this is a problem that Thorfinn had from day one and still has, that his mind is in the wrong place, and he'll never win against ACAD because he doesn't have his priorities straight and he can't think straight.
He's so focused. He's so focused on the idea of getting revenge, and that's the only thing he can think of. Like, he's not thinking about how he's gonna do it or even what's on the other side of it. It's all like, I just gotta fucking get revenge, and he just like flies headlong into every time he tries to do this. Like, this is round, like, of this fucking duel between Thorfinn and Askeladd. I mean, we've seen, what, half a dozen, maybe, attempts at this duel between them over the course of the series so far, and who knows how many actual duels they've had in the 10 years that they've been together.
Mm-hmm.
So
he's thinking with his sword, not with his heart. That's what I think.
Yeah, I'm gonna. It was definitely a fucking.
Totally
never mind.
Not a sexual innuendo.
Sure.
But Thorfinn finally gets knocked out, and the duel ends, and blah blah blah. And then Askeladd just like sits down on a log and is like,
"Gather round, kiddies. Let me tell you a tale."
The exact line he said made me laugh so hard, even though it's supposed to be a serious moment. He was like, "It's not that hard to kill a Norse person, a Norse man. Look at me. The first man I killed was a Norse man. It was my dad." And I was like, oh my god. I laughed so hard because that came out of nowhere. And it's like just so fucking controversial. Not controversial, but like so out there, so over the top. I found that hilarious, even though it was supposed to be a very serious moment.
Yeah, it's clearly framed as a somewhat serious moment, and it kind of comes off as a little campy.
Yes, it was very camp. Just the way he said it. Sounds like a punchline from like a SNL comedy, but
I wouldn't give it that much credit. I was like, okay, I wouldn't give SNL that much credit.
Oh, okay. I mean, I don't disagree, but the actual content of what he's saying is quite interesting because that is quite a very important piece of information that we know now, that he killed his father, because that really establishes him and his motivations properly. Because I have stated earlier in these episode reviews that I don't find Askeladd's whole character description of his motivation as believable because I didn't get enough information, and clearly I'm getting a lot of information today.
You said it was interesting. I'm thinking it better be interesting because it's making up the majority of the rest of this episode.
Well, you talk about it like it's a drag, but I quite enjoyed watching it. Did you not enjoy the flashback?
Well, yes, I enjoyed the flashback. It's like the idea of having a flashback this long after what is supposed to be like a serious moment is I'm not sure if I really love it. I like the way the flashback itself was done because it gives us a really good insight into Askeladd's character and his motivations, but I'm just not sure if the length of it was necessary. I feel like it could have been like slowly leaked out over the last couple episodes.
Maybe. So, like, we had brief flashbacks that told us a little bit of what happened before.
Very small pieces, but this kind of ties it all together.
I didn't like that they just leak it out in little pieces. I found that, it made me hard to relate to them. So I was actually really glad that I got a much bigger, drawn-out picture, because I was interested in hearing a justification for why Askeladd is doing this. Though I can totally understand if you think this is dragged out, because maybe
I do think
you weren't that interested.
There are people out there who genuinely hate when stories are told via flashback, and if you're one of those people, you must have absolutely hated this episode.
Well, I guess it's a bit contextually appropriate because he is telling this physically to Thorfinn for a specific reason of teaching Thorfinn a lesson. Like, this isn't out of nowhere. This is true. This is like in character, in plot, appropriate for when he's doing this flashback.
Yeah, it's in character for not just the person doing it, but it's in character for the moment it's happening as well. So I can't say that I dislike it. I'm just saying that maybe could have been maybe 5 minutes shorter.
No, Alex, you need to see all of Askeladd's pain
and I will say, before we actually get into the meat of what the flashback entails, because it's pretty much the rest of the episode, I will say any other anime, any other character, I would say a flashback this long would be an immediate death flag. I don't know anymore with Askeladd.
I think that this flashback, okay, there's a lot of things that combine together, but if we want to, it's hard for me to. So this entire episode basically encapsulates everything about Askeladd. I think that we've learned everything about Askeladd that we need to learn, and I feel like his development is finished. So in that sense, I feel like now is the perfect time to kill him, because I think we know everything. The mystery is over. We know why, we know what, and I feel like he has reached the peak of what he's trying to do, especially because at the end of the episode, he says that Canute is more suited to being king than he is. And why? Because, in my opinion, Askeladd dirtied his hands to get where he was, but Canute didn't necessarily do that. So I feel like Askeladd he wants to be king, but he doesn't deserve to be king because he has done some really shitty stuff. Whereas Canute has the capability of being king in that he has the sharpness of mind-ish, somewhat, maybe approaching Askeladd, and he has a very strong moral compass, which clearly Askeladd lacks. So I feel the line telling Canute that he's more suited to be king is basically saying, I don't care if I die.
Yeah. Well, and it may also be worth noting that not Askeladd, Canute is far younger than Askeladd. So even if Askeladd did become king, like, how long would he even be king? Would it even matter that much?
Have you seen the current king?
Well, true.
I'm sure he could live.
But you see my point. Like Canute is pretty young and has a lot of his life ahead of him.
True. So going back, way back to the flashback that actually occurred. One of the first things that happened in the flashback is that we see Askeladd working at the blacksmith shop, and I thought that was a nice trivia. So we learn why he was named Askeladd. We already knew it was called Askeladd because
it means covered in ash.
We already knew like what the definition of the name was, is that covered in ash. But now we know why he's covered in ash, because he worked at a blacksmith shop. That's like very small information, but I like that detail. I really do. Then we see,
what's his real fucking name? We know that's a nickname. What's his real fucking name?
Oh my god. He doesn't actually. I guess
we still don't know.
Not important, Alex. Or maybe it is. Who knows? His real name is Artorius.
Oh god.
Face. Joking. We learned more about his mom. We knew that his mom was living in a barn from that one
small
1 minute
flashback
scene previously in the show. But now we know why she was living in a barn, because she got ill, and that means that the king, or not the king, that Olaf couldn't bang her. So he's like, I can't bang you? Okay, you go into the shed. I'm like, well then. That was pretty, honestly, it made me feel pretty bad. It was pretty disgusting to see. Violence against women is never okay. Okay. It's okay if you kill all the men on the battlefield, but do not kill the women. No, but actually, that was pretty horrible to see. It's quite sad state that she was in. And then, as part of the flashback, we see that Askeladd was remembering that his mom kept repeating the story of Artorius until Askeladd believed it, which I find as a believable motivation. If you're a little kid and your parent keeps saying the same thing over and over again, then it's gonna get stuck in your head. So that makes sense why Askeladd is so hung up over embodying the principles of Artorius by fighting for the Welsh people.
It's also one of the principal tenets of propaganda. Repeat a lie enough and people will start to believe it.
Exactly. Looking at you, Facebook. so I'm really glad this flashback explained that in a bit more detail, because now I can believe Askeladd's motivations, whereas I didn't believe it before with that just 1 minute barn flashback that we had a few episodes ago. And as the flashback goes on, we reach to the climax of this whole thing, where Askeladd's mom finally loses her mind, which is sad to see. She's at the end of her rope, and she's just like walking around the town like a deluded woman. And then
she essentially has a mental break.
Yes, which is quite hard to watch. It was, yeah. So, and then she runs into Olaf, and Olaf is like, okay, I'm gonna kill you now. And I'm like, girl, that was so harsh. Olaf is like so rude, so many levels. and then Askeladd pops out of nowhere. He's like, bitch, I'm gonna grab a sword and fucking defend the fuck out of my mom, which was first cool. Second, they animated that really well. So yeah, love that.
I'd like to say third, not very realistically believable, but also I will suspend my disbelief enough to accept it.
Yeah. Also kind of makes the legend of Artorias feel like a self-fulfilling prophecy, because you're not going to be saved until someone saves you, and whoever saves you is going to be Artorias. So basically, Askeladd becomes Artorias by saving himself. So I found that interesting. And we end the flashback with the most sociopathic, fucking cold-blooded fucking thing that this show has thrown at us, which is Askeladd.
This child right here is going places.
Ingratiating himself to Olaf's family for 2 years, and then out of nowhere, killing Olaf in his sleep, killing his legal wife, and then framing his brother, his half-brother, who he would like spend all this time with, like getting to know and like, I don't know, sharing a roof with, and getting his brother executed. Like, okay.
I thought it was like, it shows the beginnings of his abilities at cunning, when he actually chooses to frame the brother who was the only one who really clashed with his father as the one to frame.
That is cunning. That also takes a lot of, especially as a child that young, to do something this emotionally corrupt is basically ruining your sense of morality for the rest of your life. So I can tell why he doesn't think he deserves to be king.
Yeah.
Because
it also kind of informs why he does what he does, and doesn't seem to feel a whole lot of like empathy or regret about what he does when he has to kill people.
True. Because he's lost all sense of what's right and wrong. He was just a wee lad.
I wouldn't say that he's lost all sense of right and wrong, but it certainly affected him.
Yeah, you're right. I over-exaggerated a little, but he's done some shitty things.
He's done some shitty things, but can you at least say they were for the right reasons? Because obviously his father, Askeladd's father, was not a really great person himself.
I see what you're trying to say, but I wouldn't say it's for the right reasons. I can say, okay, the motivations are justifiable.
The actions aren't necessarily.
I wouldn't say for the right reasons, because like killing Olaf doesn't help your mom. Did his mom die? I don't know.
I feel like this probably happened, like him killing Olaf probably happened after his mother died.
Yeah, I think so. So I feel like there was no real end goal to justify what he was doing, but I can understand his rage of why he was doing that. But my problem was that, like, you would need to be emotionally bereft of all, like, empathy to pull off a plan like this. So
yeah, I mean, especially to pull it off as well as he seems to have.
Yeah, to, like, basically become family with someone
just to kill them.
Yeah, so the plan itself is the problem, not so much the end game or the motivation. But I definitely see what you're saying. So after the flashback, after we come back to present day, Askeladd's like, girl, I killed my dad in 2 years, and you take 10 years to kill me? You were fucking
and he still hasn't
idiot.
even accomplished it. He still has yet to accomplish killing Askeladd after 10 years.
Yeah, I found that so funny. It's like, I was like, sounds like a very schoolyard.
It's like a taunt. It's
insult.
like, bitch, come at me, bro.
It was very childish, and I loved it. But that begs the question: what is the difference between Askeladd and Thorfinn? Because clearly there are a lot of similarities in how they've grown up, and I don't know if you have an idea of what was the purpose of why do you think that Askeladd was able to kill his father in 2 years and Thorfinn can't kill Askeladd in 10? Do you have any
It's a really good question, because obviously when Askeladd was able to kill his father, he was a lot younger than Thorfinn is now, and Thorfinn can't kill Askeladd. So my initial reaction is maybe it is like a difference of emotional maturity. Maybe Askeladd was like a kid who became emotionally mature at a very young age, which does happen. There are children who are relatively emotionally mature at surprisingly young ages. But there's another part of me that thinks maybe it's just general intelligence. Maybe Askeladd really is just smarter than Thorfinn.
I mean, probably.
I mean, obviously Askeladd has more worldly experience than Thorfinn, being so much older than him. But when you ask the question, what is the difference between Askeladd and Thorfinn? The end goal of what they wanted was the same. They wanted revenge on a specific person, where with Askeladd it was his father Olaf, with Thorfinn it's Askeladd. The difference is that one was able to, in a relatively short amount of time, accomplish the goal that he set out to achieve, which was to get revenge for the terrible way his mother was treated. And Thorfinn, in more than quadruple that amount of time, has
couple.
That yes, that. I was trying to figure out what came after quadruple, and I couldn't. More than that amount of time, on top of that, hasn't been able to accomplish the same goal.
My hypothesis is that Askeladd's goal was just to vent his rage, which he did. And I think even though Thorfinn says his goal is to kill Askeladd, I think his real goal is to find out what it means to be a true warrior, or in layman's terms, to find out the meaning of life, the purpose of life.
42.
Why this all happened to him.
The answer is 42. Douglas Adams already answered this question.
Because really, if Thorfinn wanted to, he could kill Askeladd.
I just thought of something. Another difference is that Askeladd never told his father what his end goal was. Thorfinn has been screaming from the fucking mountaintops what his end goal is.
But the whole idea that Thorfinn wants to beat Askeladd in a fair duel tells me that he's not so interested in actually killing Askeladd. He's more interested in the whole morality of the situation and trying to sort out his own moral compass. And I feel like that's the difference, that their end goals really were different, and that Askeladd kind of failed in finding a moral compass clearly, And Thorfinn may still be able to find his moral compass, because I feel like if Thorfinn ever breaks down and kills Askeladd when it would be a smart time to kill him, like when he's not paying attention, that's the point when his moral compass will break. But he hasn't done that yet. So I feel like maybe Thorfinn might be able to recover the meaning of life, the purpose of his life, and like a sense of morality. So that's a possibility.
Yeah.
We'll see what happens later on.
I could definitely see that. I mean, I guess it's kind of backed up by how this episode ends, with Thorfinn basically like having a little temper tantrum / breakdown and fucking crying.
Crying is a word to describe it. I don't know what noise he made, but honey, that was great voice acting.
It's the kind of noise you make when you realize that maybe you've made a huge mistake in your life.
Clearly he was very frustrated. I would say that would be a shout of frustration.
Yes.
I did like the flashbacks at the end of the episode.
Oh, when it kind of goes backwards through his life?
Uh-huh. That was very interesting. It brought back all the different scenes and everything and what he's been through. Clearly this is setting up for Thorfinn to have a revelation and to have a change of ways or something. Some sort of character development. I hope there's more. If he does actually develop, I really want this development to be more than just him shouting at the sky and then he like suddenly becomes developed. No, there needs to be a bit more than that. But if this is just like if this is a marker to begin actual development, which clearly he has had none for the last 20 episodes.
Very
so
little,
some would be
for
nice.
Sure.
I would welcome it, and if that is true, then I am quite happy to see it happen in the next 2 episodes before this ends.
Yeah, I mean that's it. We got 2 episodes before this. Hopefully, like I've said in the past, but just the first season ends. We'll have to see what the last 2 episodes bring. I'm very excited to see where it goes from here, because there's definitely a showdown being plotted in the background here.
So we could definitely fit in Canute versus King Swine before this whole show. I don't know. This whole season ends. I don't know what's gonna happen to Thorfinn, and I don't know what's gonna happen to Askeladd, but I think that's what it's gonna end on.
I mean, I feel like the logical side of me is saying it's going to end with there's actually going to be a battle like in the town of York where they currently are. King Swine's going to end up getting killed, and it's going to end with Canute being given the throne, and that's how this season's going to end, and you're left with, well, where do we go from here?
Maybe probably something along those lines.
And then, like, if there is a second season, which I do hope there is, it'll be, like, the whole cleanup and consolidation of power.
That I would be interested in watching. I love a good political story. Love it.
That's my theory, at least. I don't know exactly how it's going to end, but we'll have to see.
We will. So, thank you all out there for dropping in to listen to us. We hope you enjoyed it, because we sure enjoyed bringing it to you. If you want to check out previous episodes of the podcast, you can find us on YouTube, SoundCloud, iTunes, and Spotify. If you want to keep up with what we're doing, you can join us on Discord, Facebook, Twitter, and our website. Shoot us an email if you have any questions, or if you have ideas for topics you'd like us to talk about in the future. Links to all these things are down below in the description. I have been your host, Sho, and I will see you next time. Say goodnight, Alex.
I got something I want to get off my chest.
What?
York peppermint patties are disgusting.
I don't know what that is.
Listen, don't ever eat them. Every time I've had to say York these last couple episodes, it's the only thing I think of, and God, they're so disgusting.
Oh my God, you're so uncultured. Such typical American.
Wow, whoa. That was racist.
The first thing I think about when I hear York is the city of York. It also helps that... actually, I'm not going to even say that. Cut everything.